When reading the pre-serialization chapter of Naruto, I came to the realization that with a few adjustments, this chapter itself should be chapter 1 of the canonical Naruto series. And so I just wanted to go over why I believe that to be the case and how it would help with certain show don't tell aspects in Naruto. Straight from the beginning, I want to say that I'm not referring to the lore aspects of the chapter, as that would ruin other characters entirely, like Kurama and Naruto's thematic dynamic with him. So actually, I think it would be better if I just stick with the details that I would keep and tell you about those details. So the first thing, while superficial, is important, at least I find it to be important, the art style. So with this art style, I'm specifically talking about Naruto and how he's depicted. So this Naruto looks believably like a delinquent. And we see this even in the first part of Naruto, and I don't mean pre-Shippuden, I mean in the very first part of even the first half of Naruto. I would say the shift was noticeable that Kishimoto shifted his drawing style or artistic style around the Tsunade retrieval and then gradually changing it. So the reason why I want Naruto to essentially look like a delinquent is because it lends to his words when he says that the villagers hated him and he hated them back, because I would say that it makes it easier to see that face doing, or rather reflecting, the villagers' hatred back onto them. And as you can see, that Naruto here does look like he would have a certain level of delinquency or cruelty towards those who he doesn't like. Because of the shift, Naruto gives off a far more innocent child feeling to how he's drawn. And so while this makes Naruto feel more sympathetic, I think it does hurt him in certain aspects of believability that he hated people right back. So that transitions me to Naruto's actions being more than simply playing childish pranks like defacing the Hokage mountain. While in the canonical Naruto, we basically have to know a bunch of world building to understand why what he was doing was so egregious. We have to do all this world building research to see that, oh, this is what you're doing is actually quite bad, beyond simply just defacing the leaders of your village's face. You're actually doing something deeper than that, and that's how you show your hatred. Instead, with the one shot, we see it very clearly that in the first few pages that Naruto is simply reflecting the hatred that has been shown to him. Because he was disrespected at school, Naruto builds a trap hole, allows the classmate who insulted him to fall in, and then urinates on him later on. And you can see that Naruto lacks sympathy for this person because he's already shown himself to be an enemy. But then in turn, this simply reinforces what they have been taught from their own parents, that Naruto should be somebody to be hated and to be called a monster. So in this encounter, you already have the sense that this is not the first time Naruto does this. You have visual precedence for him enacting his hatred upon the villagers. So it stops being this, for the average audience member, sympathy fest for Naruto, where the audience would also have to be faced with the fact that Naruto also contributes to his own suffering in that way, and that inevitably something needs to change. And if the villagers aren't going to be the ones to change, then Naruto has to be the one to change. Even though, rightfully speaking, Naruto shouldn't be the one to change in the situation that he's in. The third Hokage in this one shot is the one that tasks Naruto with what will inevitably become Naruto's main philosophy throughout the Naruto series. And that's basically to gain the trust and respect of the people around him, which would inevitably lead to friendship, so that Naruto will not be alone. And in connection with what he learns from Haku and Zabuza, or more specifically Haku, that once he achieves that friendship, those bonds would actually make him stronger rather than weaker. So I really like this because in the canonical Naruto, it very well feels like Naruto woke up one day and decided to gain the trust and respect of everybody around him, which from all the research that I've been doing on how the audience feels about that, I can see that it's a very big point of contention within the Naruto community, where it doesn't make sense that when you are treated so awfully by the villagers, that you would then turn around and try to gain their respect and trust. I can see how this may feel like a white knight situation, where, or rather a Superman situation, where Superman sees the best in others and he wants them to achieve that better version of themselves. And so that's why he strives to help and save people. But for Superman, what drives him to do that is both his perspective on the world due to his powers and his upbringing. In Naruto's case, it feels that it comes from nowhere. But if you include this one shot into the canon and make it chapter 1, you would then realize that Naruto actually didn't come up with this, and he was actually just simply a reflection of the village's hatred. And the third Hokage came in and said, okay, try doing this because this equals that. Creating trust with others would lead to friendship, and then for what Naruto is lacking, he would gain friends and he would gain a family in that sense. And so he won't be alone anymore. So skipping to the end of this one shot, you see that Naruto is successful in making this friend. He actually made 2 friends, but one of them passed on in this one shot. So let us say that Naruto did make 2 friends after he was given this assignment. And so because of his experience of making these friends and the trust that was exhibited in the small time, that Naruto saw the value of what the third Hokage was talking about and then chooses to adopt that as a way of moving forward. And with that adoption of that ideal, it can be linked towards gaining the most trust and therefore friends, which would be that the Hokage position. And right now I'm mixing with the world building from the Naruto series, but Naruto can see how people respect the third Hokage and he views them as family members, and so that's what Naruto wants, and therefore being Hokage is directly tied to his main goal. That's what causes him to want to be Hokage. And another way that it does connect it to what would inevitably be chapter 2 would be that throughout his tenure in the academy, he is trying to befriend Iruka until finally the Mizuki incident happens and both Iruka and Naruto finally form that bond. So this would also make sense of why Iruka didn't know certain things about Naruto, about how deep how deep the village's hatred was towards him, and how the third Hokage had to explain that to him, as well as the fact that in the Naruto chapter 2, I believe that's when we meet Konohamaru. And so when Naruto was talking to Konohamaru, he was telling him that it took forever for him to befriend, or rather win over, as he put it, Iruka. But then we understand now where that tenacity would come from, where Naruto would know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel to trying to befriend, or let me just say win over Iruka. There would be a light at the end of the tunnel because of his past experiences. Of course, this would be far more difficult because Iruka would have been directly affected by the Nine Tails attack, and so naturally it would be more difficult. If we're going to go into details wise, you can simply say that this painter guy, that both of the friends that Naruto makes in this one shot are here on travel. And so you could say that Naruto just simply made with people who were traveling through the village, and so that's why it was relatively easy for Naruto to befriend them, because they didn't have the baggage of the history of Konoha on them. So as you can see, there are a lot of obvious changes you would make, but with that being said, Naruto's main ideology or belief that he then teaches to Gaara would be supported by these events. I'm just jumping in here from the future. While editing, I realized that I kept on referring to Naruto's personal motivation for understanding and befriending other people and gaining their trust. I made it seem like that was the actual main goal of the entire series and its main theme, which is incorrect. That is Naruto's personal goal as a character, and so that's what leads him to align himself with the main theme, with that main theme being to understand others. So everything I said now and will say in regards to what I'll say for Gaara, please remember it's through the context of Naruto's personal motivations and how they attach themselves to the main theme of the story. So what that means is that thematically speaking, Naruto, from the canonical chapter 1, the series executes its main theme brilliantly through Iruka being in the first chapter and Iruka himself showing that first sense of understanding and how that theme is carried throughout the whole series. But this video is more focused on Naruto's character and what motivation he had to even begin to want to gain the trust and friendship of Iruka and of other characters earlier on. And so while you can still receive that reasoning from Naruto's deep-seated loneliness, I believe this one-shot's version of Naruto simply adds to his character rather than subtracts. With that being said, continuing with the video, and what I mean by Totsugara is that I don't know what you call it, talk no jutsu, but this lesson was the foundation of what Naruto was teaching him, where Gaara was saying that he is alone in life and that solitary existence gave him strength because he only trusts himself. And so he is a direct mirror to Naruto in that way, where at some point Naruto changed that about himself because he chose to gain the trust of others and to gain bonds and friends, and that was his strength. And so what Naruto needed to do in that fight was defeat Gaara, because Gaara would not listen to somebody who is weaker than him. So when Naruto finally defeated Gaara, and then he was telling Gaara, essentially explaining to him that he and Gaara were actually the same. He was talking about their experience as Jinchuriki essentially. And so because Naruto had now shattered Gaara's view of strength, and Gaara was afraid for his own life, and he was just simply afraid in a general sense, because his views have been shattered, Naruto doesn't keep threatening him. What he does is tell him of a better way to, and basically tells him that, oh, if you want to be strong, then do this. I am like you, so I know that that you can do the same thing essentially as I did. And so that's why Gaara, when his siblings saved him, he apologized to them, because it was basically showing that he was going to try and use Naruto's method, and obviously we know in the future that because he used this method and chooses to form bonds rather than try to be alone, that he gains strength and he becomes Kazekage. And this is reflected that he achieves this goal of Naruto's and not being alone by Shippuden, where a large force of his village come to save him. And so obviously I'm skipping through a lot of world building aspects and lore aspects basically for why all of this is happening, but basically what I'm saying is that Naruto didn't talk him down, but rather had to beat him down and destroy his worldview so that he would then begin to acknowledge Naruto's own worldview. And linking it with this one shot, I can imagine the moment of catharsis that this could have brought the entirety of the Naruto community when realizing that there is a beginning to the method that Naruto preaches. And this beginning is more, at least for the audience, like normal people, would be more organic than how it's portrayed in the show, or rather the manga. Back to the one shot, I also do like the small details in the one shot where the stink of the painting has a payoff in the end to how Naruto ends up catching the murderer. This obviously showing that Kishimoto has a very good understanding of the basics of storytelling, or rather of the writing process itself. This writing being something that he becomes monumentally better at as the series progresses, especially in symbolism and thematic writing. Speaking of that, Saburo and Kuroda's story nearly mirrors Naruto and Sasuke. In a way, it felt like the worst possible outcome of Naruto and Sasuke's battle. Of course, the motives were different, but the outline was there. Kuroda survived the stabbing, the attempt on his life, and after that, he changed. He became a different person. This reminds me of the Valley of the End fight at the end of part 1 of Naruto, where Sasuke did try to kill Naruto, but then left him behind. And Naruto wakes up in the hospital and has a conversation with Jiraiya. So Naruto could have chosen to follow the same path Kuroda chose, where he becomes a totally different person. But back to the one shot, Takashi acknowledges the story is sad and is depressing. He begins to tell Naruto about the painting that Saburo created, that it was 2 trees with their branches wrapped around each other, and explains the symbolism of it is that Saburo was essentially regretful of his actions and wanted to be trusted by Kuroda again. But because of his suicide later on, it's very clear that he didn't have faith in that chance. And so Takashi explains to Naruto that because Saburo took his own life, that the hope in the painting can never be actualized. So even though Saburo had this dream to fix everything with Kuroda and be friends again, it will never happen again. But then he tells Naruto that because Naruto himself is alive, he will have many chances to gain people's trust. He'll have many chances to make friends, essentially, before offering to be Naruto's first friend. And so this goes back to my view that this is connected to Naruto and Sasuke's relationship, where we know that Sasuke does try to kill Naruto, leaves the village, but then we have it so that Naruto refuses to give up on Sasuke. And so I thought that you could very well use what Naruto learns here as his main motivation to save Sasuke, to become Sasuke's friend again, and not simply give up on him. Actually, it's not simple, but I'm just saying that because of this painting and the symbolism of it, we can say that's the logic that Naruto is using, that because Sasuke is alive, because he himself is alive, that there will always be chances for him to befriend Sasuke again, for them to gain that trust between each other again. And so of course it would serve double meaning, so meaning in the short term that Naruto can, because he's alive, try to make friends with the villagers, but then when it comes to Sasuke, which would be the second meaning, that because he and Sasuke are alive, he can always pursue Sasuke. And I think that this really can be used as a sort of thematic foreshadowing, because the painting is basically the unison sign that is later introduced into the story of the Naruto franchise, with both the unison sign and the painting symbolizing the exact same thing. And so I'm hoping that you're seeing that if this was the first chapter, how much it would benefit the series for at least the average audience member, as it will essentially give the feeling that the way the series started is how it ended. And so I'm actually quite angry with Mr. Kishimoto's editor for not seeing this opportunity. So hopefully it was because he was inexperienced rather than incompetent, because for an editor this is a massive miss. In any case, you can still add in Hiroshi's story, where Hiroshi helped one of his friends, but then when he was gone to go buy something, one of his other friends started to make fun of him. Naruto sees that there's no point in friendship because people are not true to their feelings, but then one of the friends defends Hiroshi and Naruto gets jealous of Hiroshi. I was thinking that I don't think you'd have to add that part of the chapter, because it's something that ails Naruto all the way into Shippuden with the villagers, where he's unable to trust that the villagers have actually changed their attitude towards him. And so that was a big point of contention for Naruto and the whole purpose of the Waterfall of Truth. So unless you want to take out the Waterfall of Truth or change the reason that Naruto goes back to trying to solve, or trying to catch the murderer, then I think you can put in basically the whole chapter as is. Obviously, like I said before, minus the world building aspect. And I genuinely think that it would be a great first chapter. But I don't want to be dictatorial about this, so I encourage you to actually read the one-shot yourselves with what I said in this video in mind, and see if you would agree with what I'm saying, or do you believe the audience would still have a difficult time connecting the two? I really do want to hear your thoughts on that matter. With that being said, I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.